provinciali came, 12 very large and very spicy red king prawns, covered in a divine sauce of finely chopped Neapolitan tomatoes, crushed garlic, a liberal sprinkling of herbs, a few shallots, a dash of Chianti, and just the tiniest hint of chili. They had lain on this bed of sauce until the juice had permeated the skin, and now, after a short hot blast in that Italian pizza oven, they were lovingly laid on a bed of pure white al dente rice with just a few capers for company. They looked and smelt mouth-wateringly delicious. Julia positively drooled at them. She was just about to lift two onto her plate with a little rice when Antonio held his hand up, pursed his lips and shook his head. "No, wait, Julia, darling. This dish is one of Italy's most romantic and seductive feasts. It must be very slowly enjoyed, and with all the senses." His voice was whisperingly husky. He leaned over the table and held her hand. "First, you must enjoy with the eyes. See how plump, fleshy, and yet stiff these fine, bright red gamberoni are, and how their heads, all moist and juicy, waiting to be licked and sucked." Julia's mouth opened slightly as she gasped at his seductive description. "That's right, cara. Open your mouth just a little." He reached over, breathing heavily. He was very slowly moistening his own luscious lips, and as he did so, he placed his right index finger on her lower lip, pulling it very gently down, and with his left hand he held a large fleshy gamberoni between his thumb and forefinger. "And now, my darling, it is time to slowly, very slowly, slip this hot and juicy head deep, deep into your mouth." He sighed heavily and looked into Julia's half-closed eyes. "Now, suck, my darling, a long, slow suck, and roll your tongue around the juicy head." Julia took very deep breaths through her nostrils as she sucked the rich juice. She let it trickle down her throat. Antonio slowly pulled the head back and held it on her lips for a moment, and Julie gently licked the slightly salty sauce off the head. "Delicious," she whispered. Antonio looked at her with such dark, longing eyes, and then he leaned even further forward and said in a velvet, husky voice, whisperingly seductive in Italian, ti voglia penetrare fino al culo con la mia freca di Cupido." Julia was spellbound. She couldn't move. She felt on fire. Her whole body was tingling with excitement and anticipation. All she could do was sigh, gasp, and heave her breasts, while Antonio pulled back the head and peeled the king prawn. He gave it to her lovingly. Vittorio and Tanya sat and watched, transfixed with admiration. Tanya gazed into Vittorio's face and said, Gosh, he should be allowed, but it sounds ever so erotic. What's he said? What's he said? Come on, Vittorio, you've got to tell me. Vittorio was full of admiration for his old friend Antonio. He was really getting over the breakup of his marriage, and how. Vittorio laughed and told Tanya, I can't possibly say that out loud. Come here. And he held her head close to his lips and whispered sensuously in her ear, I need you. I want to shoot my Cupid's arrow deep into your very core. With that, Vittorio thrust his tongue in her ear, laughed a sexy, voluptuous laugh. Tanya gasped and gave a spluttered laugh. She was really enjoying this evening's revenge, and she was dangerously flirting with the true spirit of abandon. She hadn't had as much fun in years.